and we're off and running like a herd of turtles in a snowstorm in July, somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Hi there, how are you doing? I am doing well. The other part of me is doing well. And I think we're on our channel here. And if all goes well, we may get a video here. Like I said, to do this kind of stuff, you got to be out of your mind, literally, and in some other place. Anyways, how you all doing, everybody? Okay, this is going to be another request video, and this one here is one that I think I should be able to give a little bit of information on, and it's twin flames, different ages. But before that, I want to express, and Nicole want to express our extreme gratitude and thanks to all of those wonderful people who have made donations to us in the last 3 to 4 weeks. We really, really appreciate the gesture, and it definitely inspires us to believe that overall, in spite of, that we actually are contributing something of value to a great many people that we never really knew about. So that makes it really wonderful. And Nicole and I thank you from the bottoms of our heart for your kind gestures. Okay, now, one more thing that I'm going to mention, and that's this for anybody new coming to this particular channel. I don't belong to the spiritual community. I don't consider myself a spiritual person. I don't consider myself a teacher. I'm simply someone going through what's commonly known as the twin flame experience and sharing a bit of my experience with others as I go along. That does mean that not necessarily are you going to like everything that you hear that I have to say, nor are you going to agree with it. And that's perfectly acceptable. No problem. Okay, now, I actually consulted with Nicole on this particular video because we come from that spectrum, because we do have a big difference in our ages. Almost 22 years, if memory serves me correctly. And we're seeing more and more of this. When we came together 21 years ago, you didn't see a lot of this where you had different ages. Now you're seeing it more and more. And it's becoming, for some reason, which I really don't understand, but that's just my perspective, confusing to people as to why it's happening. Maybe it's just me, I guess, I don't know. But the one thing that I have learned about the evolutionary process, specifically about heart center awakening and Kundalini awakenings, is the one thing that most of us realize immediately upon heart center activation or Kundalini awakening is, first of all, one, we have no control of the situation. It usually plays a lot of havoc in our life. And it would appear that via Kundalini experiences or heart center activation, that there would seem to be some mysterious power or some mysterious source of it. There will be those who want to call it God, and hey, whatever floats your boat. That's fine. But it would seem to be that in spite of the fact we deem ourselves a very intelligent species with high degrees of intelligence and intellectual and analytical capacities. And I mean, look at the state of the planet that we have now created for ourselves. I mean, everything is wonderful on the planet. There's no confusion, there's no chaos, there's no wars. Everything is wonderful. And it's getting more and more wonderful every day. More wonderful technology is producing more efficient ways of killing us. Pharmaceutical companies are producing more efficient ways of addicting us to their chemicals, additives, and drugs. And hey, we're finding more ways to poison ourselves than you shake stick at. So somewhere along the line, something has to change. So what's happened is the Kundalini experience and the evolutionary process and the heart center activation have all combined together and said, we're going to remodel those so-called intelligent people down there, and we're going to take control of their lives. And we're going to turn them upside down, inside out, and we're going to run energies through their body that they can't control. We're going to run their energies through the middle of their chest that they're going to have no idea what's going on. They're going to find themselves in situations where their belief systems, their ideologies, and their philosophies on what they thought was, isn't, and what they think is coming is not, and where they're going, they have no idea. And all of their expectations about belief systems, about who they are, where they come from, and their source and point of origin is all now being challenged in some perspective. So why not relationships? Why not understand that there might be a very big plan here, and a picture is unfolding. Depending upon your degree of wakefulness and your perception, along with your intuitive insight, you may be one of the fortunate ones that grasp a picture of what may be happening to you personally or what may be happening to others around you. So having set that up in that kind of a format, we'll now have a sip of tea. Oh, and I'm moving back to the coffee pot very shortly because I have discovered a wonderful coffee here in Canada that I didn't even know about. And it's called Folgers, and I'm not doing a commercial for them by any means, but they should because I just love their coffee. I can get a buzz by just taking a lid off the can and smelling this stuff. It's that good. So I'm going to be doing decaf Folgers coffee from now on a pretty consistent basis. Anyways, getting back to what I was saying. So what happens is that we're going along with this evolutionary process, and we have two entities on this planet, and some of us call them men and women. In most cases, when I look at their consciousness, I like to call them little boys and little girls who are trying to grow up and become men and women. And that's not a criticism. That's simply an observation. All right. I don't belong to the spiritual community, so I don't have to follow all those stupid rules that they have about protocol and behavior, for one thing. So what's happening is as we're coming of age, we're growing up. And everything that constitutes the way we create belief systems and everything that constitutes the people that have been impounding us for modification of our behavior to suit their convenience means that our consciousness reflects other people's consciousness time after time after time. So what the evolutionary process is doing is it is reconstituting right now at this point what's commonly called the relationship template on the planet. And that relationship template is guided by the Kundalini awakening and also the heart center activation of the individual or individuals in question. So that at some point in their evolutionary awakening process, which they have no control over initially in the beginning, and they've been asked to go through all kinds of nasty little negative dysfunctional releases, letting go of belief system, lifestyle changes, and even to the point where you have to change your diet, whether you like it or not, and you thought this was a planet of free will. Well, I can tell you, if any of you still believe in free will, the next time the Kundalini energy roars up your spinal column, blasts into your heart center, and you haven't got a goddamn clue what you're doing, where you're going, or even how to function in your body, ask yourself how much free will and choice you have about what's going on at the moment, and you will get a very humbling perspective of who and what you are and where you sit at this particular point in time. So you have two individuals, and they're at a certain stage of their evolutionary awakening process. And as the Kundalini energy is modifying, changing the personalities of the two individuals, it could be a multitude of these individuals, all awakening at different stages, all with different patterns or different dysfunctional pattern or different genetic and hereditary traits that are dysfunctional, and they can be positive also, all right? So you have all of these different people at all of these different stages, at all of these different ages, if you will. And all of a sudden, what happens is this whomever, whatever behind the scenes, which is in aspect the greater part of your consciousness, that unexplored part of your mind and consciousness that has not had a chance to develop because it's been manipulated and controlled and modified over eons of time through government stuff, through religious indoctrination, through political structures, ideologies, philosophies, and even in the spiritual community with their particular dogma, traditions, and belief system. And all of this is now going down the tube. And what is happening is this superior intelligence, this divine aspect of ourself, which is seeking a complementary blend of masculine and feminine balance within itself, because at this particular point, our society is constructed, created, and manifests everywhere on the planet, all right, with one basic premise. Nothing on this planet would exist. No city, no town, no infrastructure, no government, no armies, nothing, if there wasn't a concept called relationships. So therefore, the relationship template is the guiding force or the template for this species, human species on the planet, which has two entities, one called men, the other one called women, in various assortments of connections and approaches to their relationship templates. And what is happening is that is now changing and evolving. There's a very big picture going on here. So as boy number one and girl number one, or whatever combination you want to put, let's not leave anybody out here, as they're going through this process, the Kundalini energy and the heart center activation, which taps you in, unknown to you, to way beyond what a lot of people in the spiritual community at this particular point call higher self. Call this super consciousness, if you will. And super consciousness of you is reading the resume of what has created you and your present state of consciousness, as it is with other individuals all over the planet. And the one thing that we do know is that the Kundalini energy and the heart center activation doesn't give a fiddler's fart about what you think, what you're doing. You have to go to work, you have kids to take care of, you have to do this, you have to do that. When it moves, you pay attention. When Kundalini moves through your body, you pay attention. And it doesn't care what you think, and it doesn't care that you have to do this or you have to do that. So what happens is you become the recipient of that superconscious self because we're evolving. Use the term evolution. Don't get hung up on this twin flame connection label because the twin flame connection has served its purpose. Okay, the label has served its purpose and it has put a, if you will, a label, a title, something that tangible to hold on. The problem with the twin flame label right now is it's become almost like it's in a holding pattern. You've got so many people in the twin flame community right now who have become so rigid and don't have an open mind that the twin flame connection, the twin flame energy is nothing more than just the evolutionary process working through relationships in men and women at this time. So what happens in the bigger picture as this unfolds, your frequency or your energy begins to change. You radiate in your auric field a different frequency. And many of you have seen, by definition, changes that come toward you. And so all of it's not pleasant. All right? Many people are still going through that ridiculous thing they call the dark night of the soul. There is no such thing as the dark night of the soul. There never was. The reason people call it the dark night of the soul is because they don't understand what's going on. And when you experience it for the first time, it is a very negative appearing experience when it's perfectly normal. It's a perfectly normal and healthy experience for people to go through. It's not the dark night of the soul. For Pete's sakes, people, it's actually the waking up of your soul. It is actually waking up. It's just not putting up with all of the bullshit that you have put into it and other people have put into your soul and your energy and your body and your belief system over countless eons of time. Most people, most people, don't understand that this is a process of changing humanity. So as this frequency spreads out, it's going to attract to itself someone, be a male or a female, any combination you want, that is going to have complementary things that you need for a particular dysfunctional pattern or a belief system that no longer fits you, or a genetic or hereditary trait that is not positive creative. All right. And you, on the other hand, because you would have aspects and your personality or hereditary and genetics that are different, you would match a frequency with that. It's like, you're looking for a donor for an organ and you need to match. So this is actually what happened. But you don't have to go to a computer and punch up a whole pile of names, all right? And you don't have to go to a doctor to find out, all of the schematics that go along with it because it's happening right now. You're getting a matchup with someone, and that person, contrary to popular belief, doesn't need to be anywhere near close to your age, all right? So this thing that people have about these connections and why are they happening to people with big age differences, because they're actually supposed to happen that way for those two individuals, all right? And one of the things that I've said many, many times in all of the videos that I do, just because you have a connection with someone and it's deemed or designated or you believe it to be a twin flame connection, does not mean that a relationship is pending. It may mean that a lot of clearing goes on and a lot of stuff is removed, and then the two of you just may move on and then you may get another opportunity. But we still have people in the twin flame community who just can't get over that bullshit expression, oh, you can only have one twin flame. Now, there's such a thing as a closed mind, and then there's such a thing as a mind that's in a box, okay? And this is what happened in the twin flame community. Just today, I went into a group and took a look around and see what's going on, and man, you can see it. They just will not let go or open up their minds to any other concept except what they will believe, and they will take no ends to defend it in that perspective. They're just not open at all. So as this frequency goes out, then you attract two to each other. And this is what happens at this particular point in time. And in the blend of energies, here's something else that takes place also. Because once you have an active Kundalini and your heart center activates and you go through quite a bit of the changes of personality, and all of you, I think, who at least are listening to this channel can understand what I'm talking about. that your personality goes through a radical set of changes. And you are simply not the person that you were before, because a lot of that trash has been removed. So then you start functioning, all right, with what I call the 12 chakra system. Now, there's a big difference between having a 12 chakra system and functioning from the 12 chakra system. The 12 chakra system is an overlay of one of the sheath bodies, all right, in regards to the twin flame connection, okay? And what happens is everyone, once the personality, the heart center, the Kundalini energy has come to a reasonable amount of changes, then what happens is the 12 chakra system, which has been there as a template, begins to activate. And as that activation takes place, each one of those chakras then begins to radiate differently. All right. I'll give you an example. How many of you, during the course of these connections with other people, have experienced a lot of stuff and issues that all come from the solar plexus or from the emotional body? All right. Here again, let me enlighten some of you. Every one of you on this planet has an emotional body. That emotional body has been downloaded or impregnated or overlaid or brainwashed or cloned with thousands of triggers, all right? Triggers, buttons, if you want to call them that. And consciousness in this physical reality is expressed by all of those buttons or those emotional triggers that are there, and they've been planted there and put there by others. The issue at hand is this, and this needs to be understood by everyone, is the emotional body is part of the package of the cleansing and the purging. So you need something in the masculine feminine form, all right, to act as a catalyst to each other to trigger all of those buttons in the emotional body, and at the same time to actually break up the energetic templates which are in the etheric body. I'll put it another way. You have the emotional body, which contains the triggers all layered in it. The emotional body is a reservoir of energy that can be used, but it's so loaded with these triggers and buttons, it can't really do anything. Most of you react to a stimuli, all right? And the stimuli that you react to, I see it every time there's, you have an election. Politicians are masters at appealing to your emotional body. They will do anything and everything to get to your emotions, all right? They don't want to get to your heart. They want to get to your emotions. And you know who's the best at doing it in the planet right now? Someone in the US. And he has literally got people in America, in some cases, into a froth and a frenzy of negative and dysfunctional expressions of consciousness because he's a master at pushing the emotional buttons in people and getting them to express and then to actually create more of that emotional type of thing. You're going to see a lot more of this also as this cleansing and purging takes place. So as this is removed, then what happens, you have the two people come together, and they can be vast differences in ages. As I said, it doesn't matter. The age is irrelevant. It's a time of evolutionary process. And people ask, why is this happening? Well, I'm explaining it to you why it's happening. Because the evolutionary process doesn't recognize gender. It doesn't recognize age. It doesn't recognize culture. It doesn't recognize race. It doesn't recognize religious indoctrination of any religion on this planet. None whatsoever. All right. And it's changing everything because our society is going to change and evolve, or we're going to cease to exist as a species. All right. And right now, you might call this the survival of the fittest. Because if you take a look at what's happening right now on this planet, irrespective of what the spiritual community says that everything's wonderful, everything's going, we're generating love and all the rest of that caca shit that they keep spouting all the time. And the situation just keeps getting more explosive, more intense. And they just keep saying, oh, the love's going to save us all. Love is going to save us all. Shit, you can't even save yourself. And love ain't going to cut it. I can assure you that. Source creative energy is going to do it, but love isn't going to do it. So when you have these two people come together, what takes place is there's that exchange that goes on between the two of them. And the age, like I said, doesn't matter. And the hereditary, the genetics, the physical condition, the emotion, the mental, all of this is in exchange at an energetic level. Why an energetic level? So it can be broken up, the buttons are released, and the energetic template. Now, when I talk about an energetic template, this is what I mean. If you could see the etheric body is a duplicate of the physical. That's the first part. But contained within the etheric body are at least 12 that I know of additional sheath bodies. Look at them as like a humanoid form. And in that humanoid form, what's contained is like currents of energy flowing through these different sheath bodies. That's where the templates of the belief systems are loaded as an energetic template. So in order to release the buttons, it has to be released from these sheath bodies. So these two people, and sometimes it'll take more than one, it may take 1, 2, or 3 to get everything released in everybody. I can assure you, I can assure you of this. I will put it in writing if you want, that everyone on this planet, sooner or later, is going to have a meaningful, deep connection and relationship with someone, all right? And it's going to be beautiful, and it's happening now occasionally, all right? Not on a regular basis, but occasionally. And these ones are examples for others to get a template that is properly aligned with masculine, feminine, and that greater super self, all right? And this is now coming into play where this is happening. The biggest problem that's happening right now is people who are having these connections, because we're still dealing with the old belief systems about relationship, are not opening up to understanding that this is a process that they're going through. And yes, they are going to have that relationship, but they don't want to wait. They want it now because it's explosive, it's expressive, it's creative for a great many. They want it now, and they don't want to do the work. The biggest problem is everyone needs to understand the work begins with you, first of all. And then when you've actually made some progress, you will draw that person to you. And that person, if it doesn't work, unfortunately, and even I've done it in the past, it's called a false twin flame. There's no such thing as a false twin flame, and I can correct myself on that now. There's no such thing as a false twin flame. They don't exist. What happens is it's just a connection that didn't work because the two of you weren't mature enough to do so. So why not just say it? It's okay. You screwed up. You made a mistake. No big deal. You're going to get another kick at it. Everyone on this planet is going to have access to the twin flame energy, the twin flame connection, that type of relationship. But they're going to earn it. And it means personal growth, personal effort, and personal understanding of the process sooner or later. And a great many of you already discovered this, that the prime thing you need to learn is not about what's the twin flame relationship, but you need to learn about the process that's going on in that dynamic of what's called the twin flame connection. So what happens is this is when you have them come together in different ages, this is all dictated by the chakra system, the 12 chakra system, and where they are in the evolutionary process, and it can be with different ages. Now, in a lot of cases, and I've seen it many, many times, these people in different ages, I mean, they have to be legal, first of all right? I've actually seen people who had twin flame connections, and one person has been, in their 30s, 40s, or 50s, and the other person has been under legal age. Don't go there, all right? You do not want to go there, all right? You find yourself in real deep trouble if you do that. So an example case in point of that is Celine Dion, very famous Canadian singer. Most of you know who the hell she is. And her husband, who's now passed away, I believe, and somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, saw her when she was 12 years old, I think, if I remember correctly. And he knew right away who she was and what they were about. And he waited until she was of legal age, and then he became her manager. So, and they had a huge age difference between the two of them. And the issue that comes into play here is if you're going to get together and you're going to stay together, there are some things you need to know. Number one, the overall health and condition, especially of the one who's older. I found recently in a lot of cases, one of the biggest dynamics that I find, especially in this, I'm talking about men here, is I find a lot of men are very sloppy when it comes to taking care of their health when they get older. Okay, and I'm talking about in their late 50s or early 60s. They tend to get into these habits where they kind of let themselves go and they don't really give a crap. All right. And they just want to, do what they do kind of thing, and they don't really care about their health. And suddenly this opportunity comes along and they just want to give up and let it go. And that's fine, you can do that. But the idea here is this: in order for us to correct the physical condition so that people can come together in these difference of ages and actually live longer. I personally believe that in a few generations down the road, without, I might add, any kind of artificial influence to initiate it, that the human body can exist for 110 or 120 years and maintain a state of health and well-being that looks like a 40 or a 45-year-old person relatively for an extended period of time. That's where I believe we're going. As a matter of fact, I've seen it in some of my dream travels, all right? And this is all taking place because of these connections between, say, the older and the younger, and the dynamics are changing. And one thing you can say about older people is they have more experience, more exposure than the younger people, especially in this timeline now. It doesn't mean in regards to what you call past life that one has more experience, but in this particular timeline right now, 2018, we have a situation where the dynamics and the accelerated pace of change is so quick, you have to be on top of things. I found out recently, and I've gone back and taken a look at my own videos, and I look at them and I say, Mel, you contradicted yourself dozens of times in your older video. Yeah, I agree. And I think it's great. And people pointed it out to me. And when I contradicted, they caught me, or, we got Mel, we finally got him on something. You don't got me on nothing. Because I understand when I contradict myself, what happens is I know that I've grown and I've moved beyond and my evolutionary process is functioning and it's working as it should. But the reason I don't take videos like that down is because there are people coming along who are at different stages, different points of evolution, different points of awakening, and that information is still viable. So I leave it up there. So, if it makes somebody feel better, if they say, oh, I got Mel on a contradiction, hey, whatever floats your boat is good with me. I couldn't care less one way or the other. Okay. So now what's taking place at this point is when the 12 chakra system begins to align, what can happen is you can attract one of these connections to you, call it the twin flame connection, if you will, all right? And you can actually attract one or two at the same time in some perspectives. And the other thing that's going on is, I've talked about it in videos where people will come in, and you kind of, what's the word here? People come in and they kind of dump on people, and I call it transference. They don't hold themselves responsible for anything else. It's just to slough off their stuff onto somebody else and make them feel like they're the problem and they're not the problem. I call it transference. Well, that's in its negative form. In this form that's manifesting now, transference, all right, can be done on a very high level scale. And when you have somebody who has reached a point of development or a higher state of consciousness, and I'm not talking about enlightenment here, I'm talking about a species that is evolving, and we're evolving in consciousness. And once you get to the point where you have acquired some what I call authenticity, and what you have is also acquired some integrity, you don't have to be perfect, reasonably close will do. What can happen is you can transfer to another person or template them with your knowledge, your experience, your wherewithal in an energetic transfer with them. And that transfer can take place at a huge heart center connection with them, all right? And in that exchange, it may seem as though the one person is being overwhelmed by the person who's learned more, all right? But that's not so either, because what happens is the one person who is making that transference to the other person of their experience, their knowledge, and whatever else, doesn't do it consciously or willfully. It's automatically done by the super part consciousness of themselves, that actually does it. In exchange, what happens is the person who is receiving, all right, the knowledge, the experience, whatever, is also giving in the sense that they would have experience and knowledge, or they may have, for example, they may have an experience of, some kind of negative aspect or a hereditary trait or a DNA malfunction, or, they got a foul mouth, or they just got some kind of dysfunction with them. And that person can exchange the positive part that they may have, but also the dysfunctional part, which is a gift, to the other person. And the other person can gain that. And because they have the filter system of the 12 chakra system functioning very well, they can filter it so it has no emotional effect on them, file it in the memory bank, if you will, to use again with another person down the road. So it's a mutual exchange, but it's elevating to both. So there's not really one that's superior because it's an exchange. And this is what's happening on a multitude of occasions in regards to the spiritual community. But in a lot of cases, it is deemed by some as pushing their button or trying to be arrogant or whatever. You know what I noticed about a lot of people is, a lot of people see me as being judgmental. I'm not judgmental, and I'm not arrogant. I am one hell of a confident man. All right. And I am not going to apologize for knowing knowledge and having experience that I've attested to. And I'm not going to sit here and go humble and all that kind of shit that the spirit community said you're supposed to do. That's a bunch of poppycock. That stuff is 30 years old. Like, let it go. It's no longer relevant at all. And you still got some of these people in these twin flame groups and on Facebook, and oh, geez, they just go on with their preaching and teaching and whining and pining about their belief systems and what they have to protect. It's like makes you want to puke, literally, to listen to some of them the way they are. But in any case, the exchange that goes on is again going to continue for an extended period of time. And as this happens, what happens is the sheath bodies within the etheric body begin to release these templates. Now, just to give you a little example here, imagine that your personality, what you call your personality, that which you recognize and identify as being yourself, once it begins to change and evolve, and you start dropping a lot of the old templates and belief systems that you had, this then is then downloaded as an energetic template into your personality sheath body. I'm trying to be as simple as possible here. Not that you're stupid. Most of you are extremely bright. Otherwise, this planet wouldn't be in the condition that it's in, right? I mean, we're all very intelligent, or the planet would be in great shape, wouldn't it? It's in beautiful shape. Just take a look around you. It's wonderful. Everything's going great. We're doing fine. Okay. So anyways, it's downloaded into your personality sheath body. And it's subject to change because now what's happened is you're not restricted by hereditary and genetic traits that impinge upon the physical body. So the physical body can then restructure itself according to the new template that's going on. Body number one. Body number two, the personality, can then, because it's acquired some authenticity, some integrity, some principles, all right, and it doesn't have an ego-based consciousness running it behind, which has to defend belief system because you now have matured your ego beyond the diaper stage, all right, and you're now open-minded to new concepts and ideas that are coming down the road. So your personality can evolve. When that happens, you get into the next sheath body, which becomes what I call the gift body, for lack of a better expression. The gift body is latent skills and abilities that cannot and will not come to fruition with any great sense of purity and clarity unless you have the consciousness of someone who is moving up to the east side, if we can put it that way, in their level of understanding, connection, and they've acquired some of these attributes: sincerity, honesty, compassion, nurturing, all right, authenticity. All of those are the finer parts of a personality, and that personality emanates that state of consciousness. That state of consciousness affects the abilities and the gifts, which in turn activates the heart center to a greater degree, and the heart center loses its spin. It doesn't rotate anymore. It opens up like a canyon or a cavern in the middle of the chest, and then you get in to the gifts and abilities which come to fruition. Now, in order for them to come to fruition, correspondingly, the physical body has to be a fit vehicle. How many times have you seen psychics and channels and intuitives and everything else? You know, they've got all kinds of psychic abilities and everything, but their lifestyles and their bodies look like a lump on a cake, all right? And they're in lousy health, all right? So it's only a matter of time before it ain't going to function anymore. So there's a built-in safety mechanism within this process that's not going to allow any human that's starting to develop abilities that doesn't have all of the right schematics, personality, attributes, finer qualities of personality in place to allow them to, oh my goodness, I'm into 40 minutes here in this video. I do apologize for that. It's going to allow them to come into fruition. So this is why all of these types of connections are coming together. And the one with the age capacity is a very important one because there is an exchange going on. One of the things that Nicole and I learned very, very quickly when we came together, and I think it gives us an incredible advantage. We didn't have Google, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have Twin Flames. And when we came together, we had to work through all of this stuff. And there was no input, there was no counselor, there were no books, there were no nothing. It was trial and error. And we made every mistake in the book in the first 6 years, I'm told from Nicole, that we were together. It was like a Pier 6 brawl of manipulation, control, and maneuvering as to who was going to run the show or be the boss. And we learned everything the hard way by trial and error. So when I get up here and when Nicole is with me, we speak from hands-on experience because we picked a very challenging time to go through this. Everyone now, to be quite honestly, has every opportunity for it to be easier. The problem now is everyone has gotten so much into their I am discovery, by definition, they don't want to listen to anybody else anymore. All they want to do is formulate their own opinions based on what they perceive. So their mind has become only focused inner to themselves, but their mind doesn't reach out and take in or glean. One of the things that I do is when I'm working with people, people share with me their experiences. That experiences I use to validate my own. I never take my own experience as being concrete or valid until I get confirmation from others who are going through similar or like experiences, and I get a hold of them, or they fall into my lap, or I connect with them by what most of you would call coincidence. And then I take it as validation that I'm actually going in the right direction. Too many people have gotten into this thing that their mind is the only mind that can make up their mind. Every mind, and I hear people all the time, oh, we're all connected. Well, you know what? I see so many people becoming disconnected because they're getting into their head, their consciousness, and they're not taking in the consciousness of everybody else. Yet they say we're all one and we're all connected. People, you know, there's so much contradictory stuff going on here with a lot of people in the spiritual community, which is why I'm not spiritual anymore. I'm going through an evolutionary process. You know what? That's 43 minutes. I think that's enough. I didn't realize it was going to be that long. If there's any questions on this one here and I can go into more detail down the road, I would be delighted to do so. Most of you know where to get hold of us, twinflames.ca. And again, I just want to express to those people who made those donations to us, thank you very much. It was very kind of you, and you have our word. We will use it wisely and for doing more of what we're doing. Thank you very much again. Good day, everyone.